What is art? This was the question that Marcel Duchamp forced the stuffy 20th century art world to answer when he presented a urinal at a New York art competition in 1917. This complete overhaul of what could be claimed as art sent ripples throughout all creative practices. Art was no longer just about beauty. It could communicate ideas. It could be conceptual. But what happened when architects wanted to provoke in the same way? Was there space left for fun and experimentation in architecture's modernist, grid-shaped world? Enter postmodernism. I'm Reece. I love buildings, and you should too. So let's go and explore the delights of London's built environment together. Let's get this party started. Obviously, if postmodernism exists, then modernism must have come before it. In case you haven't seen our previous video, modernism was the new kid on the block in 1930s Europe. Steel, glass and concrete were completely changing the ways our cities looked. Classical styles of the last 2,000 years were completely rejected and a new era of function over form followed. According to Charles Jencks, the author of the book The Language of Postmodern Architecture, modernism died on July the 15th, 1972 at 3:33 p.m. when the infamous Pruitt ego scheme was given the final push by dynamite. Luckily, a group of architects not only disagreed with modernism's less is more, they coined the term less is a bore. Boring. If brutalism distilled the essence of modernism's purity as its cooler, grumpier cousin, Pomo rejected it completely. It was the fun, crazy cousin at the party. Postmodernism sought to reference the vast history of architecture, from the ancient Greeks to the Egyptians to Romans to the Parisian aristocracy, put them all together into a cocktail shaker, shaped them up and served them in a gorgeously ornamental, colourful and fabulous coupe. Where modernism rejected all previous types of architecture as enemies of societal progression, removing all ornamentation and iconography, postmodernism sought to embrace them. Robert Venturi and Denise Scott Brown more or less invented postmodernist architecture when they wrote their book, Learning from Las Vegas, critiquing modernism's purity and elitism and encouraging many to reconsider the role of ornamentation, context, and the vernacular. The post-war shadow was starting to fade and a new era of silly, fun, colourful, contextual architecture was starting to emerge. Buildings shaped like binoculars, wicker baskets, Greek Ionic columns and even cats were all the rage. But it wasn't all about being silly and outrageous. Just like Duchamp's fountain, it was about thinking outside the box with concepts and ideas. It was intentional. Charles Jencks was my introduction to postmodernism. Like so many architecture students, I stumbled upon his book, The Language of Postmodern Architecture, in my undergrad, and it completely transformed the way that I approach architecture. Then I discovered the Cosmic House, where Jencks brought this world to life, his theories and manifestos built in brick and mortar. Let's look inside. He built the Cosmic House whilst writing the book, weaving his theories of postmodernism into every intricate detail of the house. Set against the elegant backdrop of Holland Park, this combination of white stucco and London stock brick wouldn't usually turn heads in this part of London. Yet Jencks reimagined the London Victorian style. This contextual reimagining and reshuffling was a huge part of postmodernism's foundations. Double coding allowed for architects and historians to enjoy a subliminal message from the building, whilst the general public could experience a sense of nostalgia and familiarity. Terry Farrell, designer of the SIS building and Charing Cross Station, worked alongside Charles and his wife, Maggie Keswick Jencks, to design the Cosmic House. Their central staircase is an ode to Earth's yearly journey around the sun. Each of its 52 steps represents a week, with its own corresponding astrological symbol. This would set in motion the interior themes of the house, with each room on the ground floor representing a different season of the year. Spring, summer, Indian summer, autumn, and winter. In Indian summer, aka the kitchen, we get a great example of Jencks' double coding. These spoon glyphs A pun on triglyphs are literally spoons that are painted to look like marble. A Roman dome turned upside down becomes a jacuzzi. This mix of the historical and the everyday embodies the sense of fun and irony that you see throughout the house. The house became a hotspot for dinner parties and debates between architects like Rem Koolhaas, Zaha Hadid, Norman Foster and Richard Rogers. That's like doing karaoke with Barbra Streisand, Celine Dion, Mariah Carey and Beyonce. Whoa. The house was Grade 1 listed in 2018 and now stands as a museum and living monument to postmodernism and its early radical ideas. It wasn't just glamorous West London homes that got the postmodernist treatment. During World War II, the Isle of Dogs, which at the time was a major shipping dock, was heavily bombed. Fast forward to the 1970s, with changes to the shipping industry, the docks gradually shut down. In 1981, the Docklands Development Corporation was set up to breathe new life into the area. Part of the plan? 2 brand new water pumping stations. Yay! Margaret Thatcher decided that these would be the only 2 projects that were publicly funded, so Chief Architect Edward Hollamby saw this as a chance to go all out. Pump it! London has a fun history of making its sewage pumping stations more than just practical. The Victorian Cross Ness pumping station is a great historical example of this. Architect John Outram, who would later go on to design the iconic Judge Business School in Cambridge, was given the task of designing the pumping station. He would later go on to nickname it the Temple of Storms. With grand classical touches such as these huge Corinthian columns and this striking eye that also doubles as an extractor fan, you can see why this building definitely turns heads. Even King Charles, back when he was Prince, said that the building was witty and charming, which is surprising given that he hated most modern architecture. In 2017, the building was given a Grade 2 listing by Historic England, being praised for its bold use of colour, pattern and meaning. It's definitely one of London's most unique gems, and I love it. Travelling along the Thames from the Isle of Dogs back into the city means that we get to take somewhat of a whistle-stop tour of London's postmodernist icons. Let's go! Designed in 1985 by Jeremy Dixon, King Charles once said that he very much liked these Dutch-looking houses. Designed in 1991 by Caesar Pellai, 1 Canada Square is London's 3rd tallest building. Its distinctive pyramid-shaped roof and steel facade blend together historical motifs with modern materials, creating an almost caricature skyscraper-type form. One of London's only postmodernist buildings in the ancient Egyptian style. A well-balanced and symmetrical building, the slanted lower half and the cavetto corniche resemble that of an ancient Egyptian temple. Designed by MJPW in 1986 and inspired by 19th century wharf architecture, in particular the Royal Albert Docks in Liverpool. Designed in 1982, is a play on Victorian dockside warehouse architecture. Its bright red facade almost flows like lava out of the water. It's half dock and half boat. It even featured on the cover of London's phone book in 1990. Ooh. Designed in 1989 by CZWG, it feels like a colourful hole has been bored into the borough docks, completely juxtaposing the surrounding buildings. Finishing off our Riverside tour here in the bustling financial district of London at Bank is No. 1 Poultry, designed by legendary British architect James Stirling at the peak of the postmodernist era. It was Stirling's last project. It wasn't completed until 1997, several years after his death in 1992. The building is widely regarded as Stirling's architectural masterpiece. I can see why. The exterior of the building features a series of different geometric forms, all clad in a striped pink and brown sandstone. Through covered colonnades, an atrium of glossy, saturated blue tiles is revealed. Whoa! Surrounded by historical neighbours, including designs by Sir John Soane, Nicholas Hawksmoor and Edward Lutens, Stirling himself knew the importance of historical reference. But Stirling's design isn't in your face with classical elements. He subtly drew from the surrounding monumental buildings at Bank, like the stone-clad Bank of England and the column-heavy Mansion House, giving his building that same grand, weighty presence. Stirling's clock tower with its quirky balconies tips his hat to nearby landmarks and even references Greek and Roman rostral columns which would celebrate naval victories. But oh, the controversy. Not only did Stirling's design beat out a proposal by none other than Ludwig Mies van der Rohe himself, Prince Charles hated that one, but it also led to the demolition of a beloved Mappin and Webb building that was designed in the 1870s. Similarly to One Poultry, Richmond House by Sir William Whitfield had some rather famous historical neighbours to contend with, notably the Cenotaph, the Victorian Romanesque Scotland Yard, and the English Baroque Revival Treasury building that dates back to the 19th century. Whoa. Whitfield faced quite the challenge, preserving the remains of a Regency terrace whilst also working with quite a narrow space for his facade. He crafted a charming cluster of narrow brick towers, all beautifully banded in streaky bacon stone, as a nod to Scotland Yard's facade to the rear. Facing the cenotaph, the recessed bay windows and turrets playfully reference Tudor architecture without ever directly copying it. It's a clever mix of history and creativity that feels timeless, yet modern. Scratch that. Postmodern. Postmodernism trickled down into every aspect of daily life in the 20th century, from duck-shaped lamps to camp kettles to funky fast food chain interiors. You name it, they pomoed it. Corporations got wind of how humanizing the design style was, adding fun and color to their graphics. The charm and wit of postmodernism became diluted. Our party princess sold out and went corporate. Boring. Whether Pomo makes you smile or cringe, it did one amazing thing. It set architects free. It threw away the rulebook and invited the past back in. Sure, sometimes it resulted in awkward buildings that made you ask, what were they thinking? But at its best, it broke the mold and brought back a sense of colour, humour and creativity to architecture. Quite frankly, I don't want to live in a world where a building that's shaped like a wicker basket or a cat doesn't exist. So, what do you think? Are you a moody modernist or are you a postmodern princess like me? Fight it out in the comments below and join us next time where we find out how one of these changed London's skyline forever.